If you work with line charts and column charts, you might want to use a feature called error bars. If we click the chart to the right of the data here and go to the Design tab, we can use the Add Chart Element button off to the left. You'll see a choice called Error Bars. And as I slide over the choice here, if you work with statistics, you'll be familiar with the term standard error. You see on the chart what's being shown, a vertical bar above and below the points. Slide over percentage, looks almost the same. Standard deviation, quite a bit different. How about more error bar options? And by the way, you can get to these same choices if you were to click the plus button just to the right of the chart over here. We also see error bars there. We're not getting the visual in quite the same way, the preview, but we do have ultimately the same options. And here too, we could get to more options. So in either case, choosing more options, we activate this dialog box here. And sometimes what you want to do is experiment with this. Suppose you want to show points on either side of this that represent a certain percentage difference. In the dialog box to the right here, right now we're seeing a setting that says fixed value. We're simply seeing a bar there that shows the values that are 50 above or 50 below. And in some cases, you might want to consider, perhaps if these are sales, what those numbers might have been if they had fallen in that range. We might want to add more grid lines for that scenario too. Also, there's a choice down here called percentage. The number 5% is awfully low. And if I click on the chart right now, that 5% difference doesn't show up very well. But let's go back again to, by way of the plus here, back to error bars and more options. And choose, instead of 5%, how about 50% difference? Notice how the height of the vertical lines here are going to vary. Sometimes it's just a question of seeing, and as you click outside, those little bubbles disappear. But you see the differences represented in the chart. These are 50% higher and lower here. You also have the options to just show the higher numbers or the lower numbers instead of both. And you'll see some of those options off to the right. If we double click one of these lines, format error bars, we can go to the fill color bucket and explore some of the options here about the width of the line, the arrow type, the dash type, and so on, the width of the line to make it thicker and so on. We've got some other options available out here too with this button too on soft edges and shadows. And going back to this button here, here's where we might simply show those below or those above, but not both, or both, as you need. So different ways here of displaying different ranges of data. Now you can also, of course, do this manually in a different way. I've got some numbers here, some calculations that are actually working off the domestic totals. And this represents 75% of the value of these numbers that we see right here. This is 25% higher. So you could say 25% lower, 25% higher. We could be highlighting these. Now we do have error bars over there already, but I could copy this data, right click and copy, and then right clicking in the chart area of the actual chart, choose paste. We see those entries there. So that could be possibly a more visual way of getting to the same effect. The term error bars is a slight misnomer. We're not necessarily talking about errors. We're talking about differences that occur on either side of given points. And although you're more likely to see these on line charts than on other chart types, you can apply them, for example, to a column chart down below here. So if we wanted to pursue these here, click the chart, close that dialog box, the plus off to the right, choose error bars here, and proceed as we saw before. Now right away, as soon as we slide across error bars, we see some there already. Click the arrow to the right, more options. We're back in the dialog box. We can do these by series here, just domestic maybe. And we can pursue that approach too. So different uses of what we call error bars.